I warned you this was coming, and now we are standing at the precipice. We are at the edge, looking down, with no possibility of turning back. Those who are relying on a fixed income are going to be destroyed in the coming years. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we're going to look at the pension crisis. Let's begin. First, we'll look at this article. California Governor Jerry Brown said legal rulings may clear the way for making cuts to public pension benefits, which would go against the long-standing assumptions and potentially provide financial relief to the state and its local governments. You were told that your money was safe. You were told that you were putting money into a system that would eventually pay you back, but that's not the case. I have been covering this regularly here at the Money GPS. I covered it in my books. I told you that they would have to reform, but I was criticized. And you hear it constantly in the mainstream media, you hear it from the government officials, and you, of course, will see it in the comments section. But this information is too important because real people are relying on their pensions and they're going to be taken away. How do I know? Because they've already been doing this in certain cases around the world. And now even the governor of California said, get ready because it's coming. Brown said that he had a hunch the courts would modify the so-called California rule, which holds that benefits promised to public employees can't be rolled back. Right. So they promised you something, and that's fine. They're just going to have to reverse on that promise. They're just going to have to break that promise. The state Supreme Court is set to hear a case in which lower courts ruled that reductions to pensions are permissible if the payments remain reasonable. Wow. What's reasonable? How do you define that? What if some person gets, let's say, $1,000 a month, $1,000 a month, and every single month they use $950 of that $1,000. So they have that $50, maybe that's, a birthday present for their grandchild or something. And now you cut back 20%, and now they have $800. So every month, $150 into the hole. How far do you think they can go? How many assets do you think that they can sell to make back their money so that they can literally live? Now, I'm not saying that pensions should be there because they try to make these promises and they can never keep them. But they've made promises. I think it should be basically just washed away, just pay out the people today and admit their faults. I think that's the way it should happen, but that's just my opinion. Moving on, this is a fact-based show here. There is more flexibility than there is currently assumed by those who discuss the California rule. That's Brown. There's more flexibility. He said that in the next recession, the governor will have the option of considering pension cutbacks for the first time. All they need is the next crisis, and they can implement all these different policies that they've been waiting for. They've been just absolutely salivating at the attempt to cut back. Look at this. Further into the article. It would be a major shift for California, where municipal officials have long believed that they couldn't adjust the benefits even as they struggle to cover the costs. Why? Why have pensions performed so poorly? And I talk about this in every single video I do about pensions. Why have they performed so poorly when all assets have risen? All assets these pensions are investing in, they've all risen. They've all been doing better than ever before. Ever since 2009, the stock market has risen so high. Whether we're looking at bonds, maybe we're looking at stocks, different investments out there, fixed income or not, doesn't matter. They've all been rising. This is the biggest bubble in history. But the performance is quite lackluster. Across the country, state and local governments have about $1.7 trillion less than what they need to cover for retirement benefits. The result of investment losses, the failure by government to make adequate contributions, and perks granted in boom times. Make any excuse you want, it doesn't matter. They've been stealing people's money. They've been stealing people's money. In the next downturn, when things look pretty dire, that would be one of the items on the chopping block. That's the governor of California saying it. And you've heard me say it over the years, almost exactly what he's talking about. I've been called a fearmonger. I've been called an idiot. I've been told to shut up. The stock market is going up. People are getting paid. People are getting paid. And I agree completely. You'll see. They have raised taxes and they dipped into reserves to meet rising contributions. So they've been engaging in these policies, stealing more from people in order to make up what they should be paying out people regardless. Why? This is ridiculous. They're stealing people's money. Am I the only one saying this? All I see are on YouTube, all I see about videos about which stock to invest in today. Can we look at the real economy for 1 second? Can we have some sense in our mind? What do you think is going to happen if all of these pensioners in California get swiped 20% off their pension? You don't think there's going to be people on the streets pretty pissed off? You don't think this is going to have a snowball effect? You think that your Apple stock that's been rising since 2009 is going to not affect those people in any way? And it's just them. It's just them. I'm in a bubble. It's just them. Wake up. The nation's largest public pension is about 68% funded. 68%. That's what they're telling us. Imagine how bad it is. Ridiculous. Okay. Now, let's get into a real life situation here. This is Sears. So the company has been destroyed, going bankrupt, closing up shop. This is one particular individual talking about his situation. He's a 72-year-old guy here, and I'll quickly read some of the information from this. The details are still being worked out, but they expect pensioners to see a reduction sometime this year. The only number they have is from 2015, when it was determined that the pension plan was underfunded by 19%. Okay, think about that for a second. Only 19% underfunded compared to California, 68% funding. Not knowing what's going to happen is causing a lot of anxiety amongst the retirees. Losing their life insurance and their health benefits was enough of a blow, and many people like this individual couldn't get coverage or couldn't afford what's available. At 72, having a part-time job is possible. The older you get, the less likely you're able to get that, of course. So these people are in this tough spot, right? They're probably not well, and he talks about, what if I get sick? What if I can't deal with all this stuff? I have to get a part-time job, but maybe nobody wants to hire me, and maybe I won't be well enough to get that job. What am I going to do? Think about that. It's tough for a lot of people. There are government programs out there, but they're really not sufficient for people to live a normal life. Things are very expensive. When it became clear that his retirement package from Sears was going to end, Husk went to work. Life insurance, health, and dental benefits were canceled in September, along with other retirees across Canada. Husk expects his pension to be cut by roughly 20%. Now, that's just an assumption. We don't know yet, but we'll see. That sounds about right. That leaves me in a spot where, well, I'm going to need more money to make ends meet. At 72 years old, you don't expect these things to happen. His wife, unfortunately, fell ill. He needed to make more money. He was, working as hard as he can. He put as much of his heart into it. He loved his job, said it was great. And now, unfortunately, the company goes under. Now he's screwed. By the way, this is one person's story, but it's really telling us what happens for many people. As much as Husk enjoys his current job, he's worried about what will happen when he's not well enough to work any longer, when his pension is reduced. When you're in your 70s, who wants to cut back on your finances? You try to live comfortable for the rest of your life. He goes on with his story. How's this going to happen? When these companies do this, there's no protection. You think when you retire, they say, well, you got no worry, you can retire, live happily ever after, but there's no such thing. And he's talking about rising electricity costs. We're like everybody else. We live paycheck to paycheck, and now they're going to take a part of that away. This is what I've been warning about consistently over the years, talking about this real life situation, and people have told me, shut your mouth, Apple stock is rising. Okay, I get it. Trust me, I get it. I've seen the stock market before. Sears managers, execs will still pocket big cash bonuses even though retailers are closing. This is obviously going to happen. I mean, you see this all the time. You get a bailout. A lot of people lost their jobs in the financial industry back in, let's say, 2008 approximately. There was, I think it was 200,000 people lost their jobs in Europe alone because of that. And what happens here? The CEOs, they get $1 million bonuses. It's not a problem. They get all kinds of incentives here. Here's a little care package on your way out, a few $1 million. Oh, that other guy, he wanted to take home his stapler. No, thank you. Kick his you-know-what on the way out. That's what happens here, and you're always going to get the short end of the stick. You're not one of those who are at the top of the ladder. You're at the bottom. You're at the bottom. You're actually dug 3 feet below the ground, beneath the earth, living with the earthworms. That's simply the way it is. We will get the short end of the sticks every single time. Now, just saying all this, what do? Don't rely on your pension. Don't rely on anything. Look, if you got a pension coming to you, that's great. Don't rely on it. That's the way I see it. If we can invest in assets instead, assets that pay us, assets that hold value, if we can grow a garden, if we can have some sort of cheap electricity, if we have our own way to get water. I've talked about all these before. If you've never heard about this before, then I have free information. It's available on my YouTube channel under the playlist How To and Solutions. I talk about this more. I have 2 books that I've written where I talk about this as well. We need to prepare for ourselves. We can't rely on any other person, any other institution, any other government. That's all for this video. If you found it informative, please give me a thumbs up. Give me 2 thumbs up. Give me 3 thumbs up and 2 and 3 toes and 4 toes. And last but not least, if you found the video informative, I know you will find my books, The Money GPS and my newer release, Global Economic Collapse, even more informative. You can flip through these books at Amazon. Links are in the description below. Take care.